This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, Nitya, Shiva.
Good morning, sir.
Everyone.
మ్యూటే అవ్వదు గంట తర్వాత అన్మ్యూట్ అవుతారు.
Your voice is not audible.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Now it's audible, sir.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So to install any flavor of Unix, we require root and swap. Without root and swap, you cannot install any Unix family. Where this root and swap by default create after the first sector or zero sector. Under zero sector, it writes MBR. MBR stands master boot record and PT stands partition table. Same like Microsoft. After the zero sector, it is going to create root partition, then swap. The first sector, zero sector, always reserved for MBR, master boot record, and PT partition table, either Microsoft family or Unix family. What's the problem here? We discussed system booting process. Initially, the BIOS will be loaded. BIOS loads MBR, master boot record. MBR loads PT partition table. Partition table loads bootloader. Bootloader loads kernel. If I get the root partition, the entire disk, the whole disk, it will take more time to load the operating system. That decrease my system booting performance. That decrease the system booting performance. So do not keep everything under root directory. Last class we discussed about Unix directory structure. What is Unix directory structure? Under root we have bin directory as bin directory, etc directory, usr, lib. These are the main directories under root, which contains system files. Main directory under root contains system files. System files means what? Operating system files. Create automatically at the time of installation. How much space it occupies? Not more than 1 GB. System file does not occupy more than 1 GB. not more than 1 GB. But root also contains USR. What USR contains? Man pages. USR contains man pages. What is the meaning of man pages? Man pages nothing but documentation. Yes, folder. Man page nothing but documentation. For example, you want to read the help for ls command. Either from the dollar prompt or from the hash prompt, type man ls. That gives the help options syntax for ls command. You want to see the help for user mod command, type man user mod or chmod. Like that, we can see the help for any Unix command by using man, the command name that gives the complete syntax and options and everything. This is called man pages, also called documentation. When system file does not occupy more than 1 GB, man page occupies more than 2 GB. Man page occupies more than 2 GB. By default, where the USR is under root, meaning man page is also under root. When man page is also under root, it will take more time to load the operating system. Takes more time to load the operating system. That decreases the system booting performance. So do not keep man pages under root. Do not keep man pages under root. Create a separate partition for man pages. Create a separate partition for man pages. If slash usr is not separate partition, by default usr is under root. By default usr is under root. When usr is under root, man page is also installed under root that decreases my system booting performance. By separating slash usr separate partition, man pages are going to install in a separate partition not under root. I can increase my system booting performance. Generally, in Windows, we call it as drive. Unix, we call it as file system. Either drive or file system, both are partitions in the hard disk. The partitions in the hard disk, Windows we call it as a drive. Each drive is a partition. Unix we call file system. So what are these called? File system. Root, slash usr, and swap. So these are file systems. Next, OPT also by default under root. What OPT contains? Third party software. OPT contains, OPT stands optional. Optional means third party. When OPT Under root, all the third-party softwares are by default installed under root. That decrease my system booting performance. Do not keep OPT under root. Create a separate partition for OPT. So that the third-party softwares are installing in a separate partition in the hard disk. It is not under root. Next, a directory called var. Var contains log files. Var contains log files. Where the var by default under root. All the log files are installed by default under root. That decrease my system booting performance. I don't require log files for file system is booting. So don't keep under root. Make it separate partition in the hard disk. And one more directory, that is home. We discussed last class, home contains user home directories, user database. If you run the command user at username, with that username, a home directory by default create under home. Home is under root. So all the home directories are creating under root. That decrease my system booting performance. Don't keep home under root. Make it separate partition in the hard disk. So root / user swap / opt / var / home. We have to segregate the partition in order to increase the system booting performance. Do not install everything under root directory. That is called file systems. What file systems these are called? These are called Unix file systems. When these are Unix file systems, what are these are called? Under root we have been, has been, etc. All these are under root. What do you call this? Anyone? Hmm? This is called Unix directory structure. What is different between Unix directory structure and Unix file system? Unix directory structure is inverted tree. Meaning of inverted, everything under root. All are directories. By default, all these are directories under root. Inverted tree. Unix file system means separate partitions in the hard disk. Like we call drives in Windows, C drive, D drive, E drive. Here we call file systems, separate partitions in the hard disk. That is the difference between Unix directory structure and Unix file system. So before we go for Linux administration part, you need to understand the difference between the directory structure and file system. Now coming to the hard disk. Types of disk. IDE, Integrated Device Electronics, SATA, SCSI, Nowadays we are using SAS hard disk. If it is IDE, there are the types of disk available. Nowadays IDE is outdated. IDE we are not using. Either SCSI or SATA disk. Let us take for example your laptop, Windows. How do you know that how many hard drives are connected in your laptop? How to check how many disks are available in your hard disk? Anyone? Go to this PC, right click, go to manage, go to disk management. Disk 0 stands first disk. Disk 1 second disk. Disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, all these are hard disks. This is the naming convention for hard disk in Windows: disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3. So the naming convention for hard disk Windows is disk 0 stands first disk, disk 1 second disk 2 third disk 3 fourth disk. In Linux, /dev/sda stands first disk, /dev/sdb second disk, /dev/sdc third disk, /dev/sdd fourth disk. Windows we call disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3. Here SDA, SDB, SDC, SDD. The first disk, second disk, third disk, fourth. This is the naming convention for hard disk in Linux. In Windows, we can create the drives from C to Z. C to Z, we call it as a drives in Microsoft. In Linux, /dev/sda or SDA stands first disk. This first disk, we can make a partitions SDA1. What is SDA1 stands? First physical partition in the first disk. SDA2. Second physical partition in the first disk. SDA3. Third physical partition in the first disk. Third partition in the first disk. SDA4, SDA5 up to SDA63. SDA1 stands first partition, first disk, SDA2 second partition, first disk, SDA3 third partition in the first disk, up to 63. Second disk. What is the naming convention for second disk? SDB. What are the file systems in the second disk? HDB1, first partition in the second disk. First partition or file system in the second disk. HDB2, second partition in the second disk. HDB3, third partition in the second disk. Like this, these are the naming convention for hard disk and file systems in Linux. Any question?
Sir, what is the difference between ADE, SATA, SCSC, sir?
IDE 10 years back, 15 years back, we used to use IDE for laptops. Laptop desktops only for workstations. We used to use IDE. In place of IDE, we are using SATA, but SATA also outdated. In place of SATA, we are using for laptop desktops, we are using SAS hard disk. SAS hard disk. IDE SATA is outdated. In place of that, we are using SAS hard disk. SCSI stands Small Computer System Interface. It is for servers, real servers, database server, application server. We used to use SAS SCSI hard disk, but it is also outdated. Nowadays, we are using only SAS. SAS hard disks are very fast comparing with IDE, SATA, and SCSI. All these disks are outdated. Right. Let's see the installation part. Earlier, we discussed the installation part. There are two types of installation. One is auto layout. The other one is custom layout. There are two types of layouts, auto layout and custom layout. What is the advantage of auto layout? At the time of installation, before we start the Linux fundamentals, we have seen the installation part. At that time, we discussed about auto layout. What is advantage of auto layout? It won't ask you what partitions to create, what file system to create. Everything is automatically created. As a beginner or a fresher, you don't know what is the difference between the directory structure and the file systems. If you don't know the directory structure and file system, then go for auto layout. Everything is by default installed. But in auto layout, it is going to create only two partitions. One is root, the other one is swap. It is going to create only root and swap. You have 500 GB hard disk. The whole 500 GB allocate for root. You have 1 TB hard disk. The 1 TB allocate for root. That decrease my system booting performance. Auto layout for freshers or beginners. Being an expert is the real time. You'll always install Linux in custom layout. Custom layout means what? We can customize our partitions according to your requirement. Make it /usr separate partition, opt separate partition, var separate partition, home separate partition. We can divide these file systems according to the requirement. Experts always install Linux with custom layout. So today we'll see how to install Linux with custom layout. First, create the virtual machine. You know how to create the virtual machine. Click on New Virtual Machine. Take Custom. Next. Take Default. Next. I'll install operating system later. Next. Which OS you want? Linux, Red Hat, or CentOS. Click on Next. Where do you want to install the OS? Take default location C drive. Processor take default. Memory RAM take default. Sorry, take 4 GB. Click on Next. Take default. Next. LSA logic take default. Next. Here we have IDE, SCSI, SATA. Click on SATA. Click on Next. Take default. Create a new virtual disk. Click on Next. Size 20 GB. Take default or make it 30 GB. 20 is enough. Won't make it 30 GB. Click on Next. Disk file take default. Click on Next. Click on Finish. So VM is created. Attach ISO file to the virtual machine. Click on Edit. Select CD DVD. Use ISO image. Browse. Open. Now power on this virtual machine. Select the first option. Install CentOS 7, CentOS 9. Press Ctrl Alt Enter full screen. After default language, English, click on continue. Click on installation destination. Default is automatic. In automatic, everything by default installed. You have 30 GB hard disk. The entire 30 GB allocate for root directory. It is going to create only root and swap. So it is not recommended in the real servers. Go for custom. Click on custom. Click on done. Default is LVM, Logical Volume Manager. We'll discuss this LVM later. Click here, Dropbox, select standard partition. Select standard partition. Click on plus symbol. Select standard. Click on plus symbol. Mount point. Slash boot. I'll explain you later what is this slash boot. Size 300 GB. 300 MB. It always takes an MB. What type of file system type? XFS. Extended file system. Windows we call NTFS. The default file system type Windows is NTFS. Here we call XFS. Click on plus symbol. Create the partition root. Size 7 GB. 7000 MB. Click on add mount point. Plus slash USR size 6 GB. Add mount point. Slash boot is created. Root is created. Slash USR is created. Swap. Swap double of the RAM or equivalent to the RAM. Either double or equal. So 4096. Add mount point. So we are going to create only, we are creating only root slash user and swap. We are not creating slash var slash opt. Those are in the real servers, not required for laptop. Laptop means what? Standalone. Your laptop is a standalone. Your desktop is a standalone. On standalone systems, we require only this slash boot, root, slash usr, and swap. Slash opt, slash var, slash home, not required for standalone. Those are required in the real service. If you want, you can create slash opt separate partition, slash var separate partition by clicking the plus symbol. In the real time, we are going to create those partitions, not required for laptops, standalone server. Click on done. Click on accept changes. It is giving some error. In older version /boot, in new version, it is not taking the /boot. Delete this one. Plus symbol. Take /boot EFI. Size. Click on done. Accept changes. So don't take /boot, take /boot/EFI. Software selection, server with graphical mode. If you want, you can install minimal install. Last time you selected minimal install. Now we'll see how to install the Linux with server graphical mode. Take this default server with GUI. Click on root password. Give the password, any password as you wish. Click on done. By default, root logins from remote systems are by default denied. When you log in through PuTTY from Windows, that is called remote logins. Root logins from remote systems are by default denied. First log in as a normal user, then switch to the root user. You won't allow root logins directly, you have to select this option. Allow root SSH, which allows root logins from remote system, but it is not recommended. In the real time, they won't allow you login directly from remote system. Root logins from remote systems are by default denied. It is not recommended to select. Take everything default. Click on done. User creation. Create any user as you wish. Click on done. Now select begin installation. If you install already Linux with auto layout, remove that, delete that VM and install Linux with custom layout. The next topic is disk management. In disk management, we require VM with custom layout, not auto layout. In disk management, we'll discuss how to create the file systems from the free space after installation. Tomorrow, they'll ask you to create the /home software partition. Where I did not create /home during installation, we can create it later after installation. I did not create /opt during installation. I can create later after installation. That is comes under disk management. So tomorrow class we'll see how to get the file systems partitions from the free space. For that we required custom layout, not auto layout. Delete that one, previous one. and reinstall operating system with custom layout. So that we'll see how to create the partitions from the free space, how to format it, and how to access it. Any questions? Okay then, see you tomorrow, same time.
Thank you, sir.
Hello,
Yeah, hello.
sir. If the system RAM is 20 GB, then what is the swap space?
I'm sorry,
If the RAM is 20 GB, then what should the swap space?
20 GB.
20 GB swap also.
See, at the time of installation for virtual machine, give only 4 GB. 4 GB is enough. Swap always equal to the RAM.
In server, if RAM is 20 GB, then what is should the
Yeah,
swap space for the
that,
servers?
that we'll discuss later in the admin classes. We have a separate topic, swap management. There we'll
Okay,
discuss the real time what what would be the swap partition.
okay. Thank you.